The new Flash movie has some wicked action scenes, enjoyable humor, and both fictional and real-life child endangerment. What a film, am I right? Instead of looking at the film itself for the entirety of the video, today I'm going to look at how the film compares to other popular Flash media. Though before I start, I'd like to say that while I did my research, I'm no Flash or DC comic expert, so if there's anything I missed or anything you have to add, make sure you leave it in the comments below, and also quick spoiler warning for some of the events of the film. But first, let's take a look at the production of the film, some small details you may have missed, and some important Flash concepts to understand for this video. Now, The Flash, directed by Andy Muschietti, finally released to theaters on June 16, 2023, but development of a film based on The Flash began in the late 80s, with multiple writers and directors working on the project until 2014, when the film was redeveloped as a part of the DC Extended Universe, with Ezra Miller cast as The Flash. Multiple directors then worked on the film over the following years, with several leaving the project over creative differences. Muschietti joined the project in July of 2019, and pre-production began in January of 2020. The film itself is influenced by the 2011 Flashpoint comic book storyline, and features Sasha Calle as Supergirl, and both Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton's versions of Batman. Now, I'm going to take a closer look at why the production of this film was so difficult. Though, if the production parts of these videos bore you, I will be leaving timestamps in the description below, so feel free to skip past it. In the late 80s, Warner Brothers hired comic book writer Jeff Loeb to write a screenplay for a Flash film, though it was never used. And in December of 2004, Warner Brothers hired David Goyer to write, direct, and produce a new version of The Flash, in which Barry Allen would appear in a supporting role, with Wally West as The Flash. By February of 2007, David left the project over creative differences with the studio, and Sean Levy was hired to direct and oversee the writing of a new draft. Later that month, Warner Brothers announced the development of a Justice League film titled Justice League Mortal. The idea was to start a franchise with planned sequels and spin-offs, including the Flash film. Sean ended up leaving The Flash in October of 2007 because of scheduling conflicts. David Dobkin then took over as director and began developing the film as a spin-off from Justice League Mortal. Then, Justice League Mortal was cancelled, and Warner Brothers set a 2008 release for The Flash, but it was further delayed by the 2007 to 2008 Writers Guild strike. So, in June of 2010, writers Greg Berlanti, Michael Green, and Mark Guggenheim were hired to write an entirely new treatment for The Flash. In October of 2014, Warner Brothers and DC Films announced projects as a part of the new DC Extended Universe, and The Flash was set for release in March of 2018, with Ezra Miller set to star in the film. In June of 2016, Rick Famuyiwa was hired to take over as director after several people left the project due to creative differences. Pre-production then began in October, with the filming planned to start in March of 2017, but by the end of October, Rick left the project after more creative differences. The film was subsequently put on hold, and Warner Brothers then decided to take the film in a new direction. And in January of 2017, Joby Harold was hired to do a full rewrite of the script. Later, at July 2017 San Diego Comic-Con, the film was announced with the new title Flashpoint. Filming for this was expected to begin in Atlanta in February of 2019, but Ezra Miller's commitments to Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore delayed filming again. In July of 2019, Warner Brothers chose Christina Hodson to write a new screenplay for the film, and Andy Muschietti became director of the film later that year in November. Filming for this was expected to start in 2021, though the COVID-19 pandemic further delayed the release of the film to November of 2022. And filming finally began on April 19, 2021, and wrapped up later that year on October 8th. Finally, while in post, the film's release date was pushed a final time to June of 2023 because of further pandemic-related problems. Though Ezra Miller ended up putting that release date in question. For those of you who are unaware, Miller has been involved in several controversies and just generally unacceptable situations. Warner Brothers faced a lot of pressure amidst the controversies and really had three options. 1. If Miller received professional help, the film would be released and they'd be involved in limited press. 2. If they did not receive help, they'd be involved in no press and the role would be recast in the future. And 3, if their situation worsened, the film would have been cancelled as a last resort, which is unheard of because of the film's $200 million budget. But essentially, Ezra has been arrested several times and has several accusations of abuse, drug abuse, grooming, and erratic and disturbing behavior against them. with most of the accusations being in recent years. Ezra has released an apology explaining that they are seeking treatment for, quote, complex mental health issues, end quote, though I'm not sure that their string of controversies will fall behind them very soon. Now, moving on from all of that, let's talk about a few Easter eggs in the film. First, when Batman is trying to restore original Barry's powers, he straps him to a chair and almost accidentally kills him by electrocution. This is a reference to the first comic in the Flashpoint Beyond series, where the Flash is horrifically killed by Batman while he tries to restore Barry's powers and remind him of who he is. Also, there are a lot of references to Tim Burton's Batman films, including the Joker's laughing bag that is found by younger Barry in the Batcave, and the older Bruce Wayne's mansion, Batmobile, and suit, which are all from the Burton era. And finally, the Dark Flash at the end of the movie serves as a nod to the Dark Wally West from the comics, and even a stronger nod to the CW TV series Savitar, who turned out to be an older evil Barry, just as the Dark Flash was in the movie. Really, this Flash movie is an extremely referential film. Similar to how Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse or even Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness works for Marvel, The Flash deals with alternate universes and different versions of the classic characters. Specifically, it includes cameos of Christopher Reeves and Helen Slater's Superman and Supergirl, as well as Nicolas Cage's version that never saw the light of day. We also see DC's current Batman, played by Ben Affleck, and the Batman from Tim Burton's series, played by Michael Keaton, which opens up the multiverse for DC's cinematic universe and offers the idea that the multitude of different Batman films that have existed are not simply remakes of each other, but occur in different multiverses. Adding on to this multiversal situation, Ezra Miller first made cameo appearances as the Flash in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice and Suicide Squad. Then, they starred in the 2017 Justice League film. But they also briefly appeared in the CW TV Arrowverse crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths, which brought the TV series into the loop of the wider DC multiverse. And finally, the Flashpoint is a hugely important central topic throughout the new film and the TV series. Essentially, the Flashpoint is what occurs when Barry Allen uses his powers to travel back in time and change the past. And the inspiration for these events in the TV show and now the movie come from the 2011 comic series by the name of Flashpoint. Anyways, with all of that aside, let's take a look at how this film compares to other Flash media. With each adaptation of the Flashpoint, one of the things that always switches around is, well, the things that switch around when Barry creates the Flashpoint. In the original comic series, when Barry creates the Flashpoint, Batman in the new reality that Barry created is not Bruce Wayne, but instead Thomas Wayne, as in this reality Bruce dies in Crime Alley that night in place of his parents. Additionally, Bruce's mother, Martha Wayne, becomes the Joker after the loss of Bruce creates a rift between her and her husband and drives her mad with grief. While the TV series really just focuses on the Flash, so Batman and the other members of the Justice League are not involved. In the new movie, however, when Barry creates the Flashpoint, Bruce Wayne is still Batman, but a much older Batman. In a sweet little Easter egg, this older Batman is a kind of alternate universe version of Batman, as he is played by Michael Keaton, who played Batman in the Tim Burton series of films. Secondly, in the original comic series, there is a global war between Atlantis and Themyscira, Aquaman and Wonder Woman's people. This really sets the mood for Flash's story in the comic, as it makes the timeline he finds himself in appear even more different from his original timeline and much more hostile. And again, in the TV series, other members of the Justice League are not involved and there is no global war. But in the film, this event also does not occur, and while Wonder Woman and Aquaman exist in Barry's original timeline, they seemingly never exist in the timeline that the Flashpoint created. Adding on to that, General Zod's appearance only occurs in the film. The Flashpoint comics antagonists center around the war, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and like the TV series, the Reverse Flash. Last seen in 2013's Man of Steel, Zod finds himself in the exact same position in the new Flash movie, on Earth in search of the last Kryptonian. However, unlike in Man of Steel, he is fought by Kara Zor-El, Michael Keaton's Batman, and 2 Barry Allens. In the TV series, Barry is motivated to change the past not because he wants to prove his father innocent as in the new movie or save his mother as in the comic series, but because his father was murdered by the villain Zoom, leaving Barry with the loss of both parents. This pushes him to change the past, and to do so, he has to capture the Reverse Flash before he can kill Nora, his mother. In the TV show's Flashpoint timeline, Barry is no longer the Flash, and instead Iris West's brother is Kid Flash. Barry enjoys his life with both of his parents, but is sad to see that some of his friends are not doing as well in this timeline, and as he experiences painful flashbacks to the old timeline, the Reverse Flash warns him that soon he will forget his old life, which pushes Barry to set things back on track. Now that I've thrown the Reverse Flash's name into the mix, let's dive a little deeper. In both the Flashpoint comics and the television series, the Reverse Flash, also known as Eobard Thawne, is Barry's arch nemesis. Again, even going as far as being the one that kills Barry's mother. In the recent film, there is no Reverse Flash, just a younger Barry. Though as the film reaches its peak and the two Barrys are stuck in the Chrono Bowl, going back in time over and over again to save Kara and Batman's lives, the original Barry, being a bit wiser, realizes that his mother's death was a fixed point and that there is no way to save both her and the rest of the world. This enrages the younger Barry, who keeps trying until the arrival of a third speedster, whom we'd seen punching Barry out of the Chrono Bowl earlier when he had gone back to save his mother. At this point, the big twist was kind of obvious in my opinion. This third speedster, referred to as the Dark Flash, is covered in some sort of rocky shrapnel that is eerily similar to a piece of shrapnel that the younger Barry had been pierced by in an earlier fight. Lo and behold, it turns out that the Dark Flash is an older version of the younger Barry, and serves to take place of Eobard Thawne and the Reverse Flash from the comics and television series. Moving on, another twist of the Flashpoint in the comics is the same as in the film, and that is that Superman did not crash in Kansas as a baby. However, in the comics, he is recovered by the US government and imprisoned until Batman and the Flash free him, and with the world not knowing Superman, Cyborg is the hero of the planet instead. And in the new film, Superman's pod is intercepted by Zod and he dies as an infant. In his place, however, is Kara, who crashes on Earth and is imprisoned by the Russian government, rather than the US government, until she is freed by Batman and the Flash. As for Cyborg, Barry does a search for him only to find that he is a regular flesh and bones kid. In the end, really, the things that change when Nora is saved in the TV series are not comparable to the comics and the movie, mostly because the characters in the TV series are different than the movies. And the crossover characters are different as well, with the series commonly featuring characters from the Arrow, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow, while the comics and movie mostly feature the heroes of the Justice League. However, something that the movie did not explore too much are the inevitable changes that occur once Barry has set the timeline back and his mother dies. The movie does show us a still older Bruce Wayne, played by George Clooney in the restored timeline, while the TV show shows us a lot of changes within the characters of The Flash and other Arrowverse series. This includes Iris not speaking with her father, Cisco being distanced from Barry because he wouldn't go back in time to save his brother, Diggle from the Arrow having a son named John instead of a daughter named Sarah, and a new CSI co-worker named Julian, who is an absolute prick. Also, while the film brings in multiverses and different versions of characters such as Batmans from different eras of films, the comic series doesn't really do this. Aside for one alternate timeline in which the story is set, there aren't many other references to a major multiverse. Overall, I thought the Flash movie was pretty good. It wasn't anything exceptional, though it was a humorous, lively, and enjoyable superhero action film. Anyways, thank you all for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe to support me, and leave a comment below if you have any thoughts to add or films you'd like me to look at next. As always, remember to be good people, love others, and love yourself. Peace.